Hey guys, welcome to my channel. In this video I am going to share with you my birth story. So if you're new to this channel, I make videos about health, travel, minimalism and yoga. This video is a little bit different than what I usually film, but I've been really drawn to making this video for quite a while now, so I'm really excited to share this story with you. I wanted to make this video because there are so many horror stories online and, well, everywhere. You just hear the most horrible stories about women's experiences giving birth. There's so much fear ingrained in the whole birthing process, and I really wanted to share a positive birthing story because when I was pregnant, that's what I wanted to hear. I just wanted to hear something really empowering and positive, because giving birth is, yeah, it's crazy, but it's a beautiful thing as well. And I just don't think it helps having all of these horror stories everywhere about giving birth. When you're pregnant, listening to those stories, I just think is not in any way beneficial and only increases the fear that women have about going into labor. So I'm going to share with you my story. As some of you know, I was backpacking up until I was 7 months pregnant, and I flew back to Australia and we got a unit and we settled down and to prepare to give birth. And by this stage I hadn't seen a doctor or anything in Australia until I was like, I think 31 weeks. I went to a private midwife clinic to discuss all of my options about giving birth. So we decided to hire a private midwife, and that was because I really wanted a water birth. That was very important to me, and by having a private midwife, that ensured that I'd be able to have a water birth. We really wanted to have a home birth, but it just wasn't an affordable option for us at this stage. If we hadn't have been traveling and stuff, then we would have definitely had a home birth, but it just had all of these extra fees and stuff with having the birth at home. So we hired a private midwife, and we had opted to have give birth in a birthing center. So not the hospital, but like a birthing clinic. That's a midwife run clinic at the Gold Coast. So I knew my midwife really well before I gave birth. She knew Chris and I really well, and what we wanted and what was important to us. On the 21st of January last year, I'd had really weird dreams all night, and I woke up in the morning and I just knew it was the day, or like I was going to start going into labor soon. I just felt really different, and I went to the toilet and realized that my waters had started leaking. So I went back to bed and hopped back into bed, and I told Chris, and we just sort of lay there really excited, and just excited because we knew that our baby was on her way to us and we'd be able to meet her soon. So that day was just this crazy day. Like, it just went so fast and slow all at once. We got up and we cleaned the whole house. We just wanted to create a really beautiful space for me to be in labor. I had always thought I'd labor overnight, so I knew that it wasn't going to happen anytime really soon. So we spent the day preparing, and we went to the beach a lot. We went for lots of long walks along the beach. My contractions hadn't started yet, so my water sort of leaked all day, slowly leaking. And I remember the midwife came around and we talked to her, and it was just a really exciting time. So we went, I remember it was afternoon and the contractions still hadn't started, and I was starting to feel a little different though, and I said to Chris, like, let's go for a really long walk. So we went back down the beach, and I felt my first surge at, I think it was around 4 p.m. that afternoon. They call them surges, but you might know them as contractions. But I felt my first surge, and it was pretty intense. It took me by surprise, and they began 20 minutes apart. So we went for this really long walk, and every time I had a surge, we'd just stop and Chris would hug me, and we were at the beach, and I was just like mentally beginning to prepare for what was to come. we picked lots of flowers, frangipanis, and we went home and we lit some incense and laid out flowers all around the house, so it just smelled beautiful. And yeah, and I remember Chris cooked us some dinner, and we had some dinner and we put a movie on it. And we do not watch movies ever, but we put this comedy on, and I remember just laughing so much because I think it was just, it took away from the seriousness of what was going on. And I remember just like laughing, and then I'd get a surge, and I was just like, it was just the weirdest, craziest feeling, but it was good, and it helped with just like distracting me from what was going on. After we watched that movie, my contractions started getting more regular, and still probably like 15-20 minutes apart. And Chris ran a bath. We had a big spa bath in our bathroom, and we lit some more incense, and I remember sitting in the bath, some essential oils in there, and Chris sat opposite me in the bath, and we played some mantras and we meditated with each other for a while. I just wanted to start focusing on my baby and my labor and preparing mentally for the night ahead. So we meditated for a while, and then I told Chris to go and lay down and sleep, just so one of us could get some sleep. It's probably about maybe like 8 or 9 o'clock at this stage. So Chris went and laid down and got a few hours sleep. My contractions started coming closer together, and at this stage I was dealing pretty well with it. They weren't too intense, but yeah, they were getting pretty intense. And I labored on our bed for a while, and then in the shower for a while. I just sat on the ground with the water on my back, and it just felt so nice. Like, honestly, water and labor, it just, yeah, it's so good when you're in labor. I remember it just getting more and more intense, and my breath started changing. Like I started like humming through the surges. So every time I felt it coming, I'd just start like, I don't know why I was doing that. It was just very intuitive to me. I just went with everything I felt. And so I was humming through these surges, and Chris was still asleep, and it got to the stage where I needed him. So I went in and got into bed with him. He was in the second room, and I laid there, and he started timing my contractions, and they were like 6 or 7 minutes apart. And it was getting pretty hard for me. But he helped me constantly, brought me back to my breath, and between contractions I was just preparing for the next one. And I knew that like it would last, say, like 1 minute and 20 seconds, and I was like, okay, 80 seconds, I can get through 80 seconds, I can get through 80 seconds. And so he was amazing support, and he actually told me after labor that he was worried about what his role would be. And he was, at the very start of the labor, he was like, felt like he didn't know what to do and stuff. But by the time my labor had really started, my active labor, he was just like the most amazing support ever. He wasn't even, you could tell he was just there. I've never seen someone so present with me. Like, he was just so there for everything I needed. He was there, and he just said it was like the craziest experience for him. Like, time just flew, and he was just so in this zone. So it was just amazing to see him like that, and it definitely changed us in our relationship that night. Just transformed, really. So from that bed, I went to the shower again with Chris, and I remember just laying on the ground in the shower and having the warm water on me, and I was there for like 2 hours, and that's when everything changed. I just realized that I was still holding on a lot because I was pretty scared. My breathing was my savior, honestly. Just breathing, and Chris would always bring me back to my breath if at any time I got a little bit like scared or anything. So we were just like very much in our zone, just breathing and humming and listening to like mantras, and just really in our zone. And it was in the shower that I just mentally was like, I need to let go. Like, I'm ready. Like, my baby is ready. Like, I need to release. And my contractions went from like 5 or 6 minutes apart to like 2 or 3 minutes apart, much longer in duration. And most of my labor, like my active labor, was there in the shower, and I would have given birth in that shower if the hot water hadn't have run out. So by this stage, by the time I got out of the shower, I remember, actually I was still in the shower when I told Chris, I was like, you have to contact my mum and let her know that if she wants to be here for the birth that she needs to leave. And by the time I got out of the shower, it was really early morning by now, probably 5 in the morning. I got up and my contractions were just so close now, like I wasn't having much of a break between contractions. And we got into our bed and I was just naked. I just couldn't have clothes on me. I was naked like the whole labor. And I remember the midwife and my mum arriving at the same time, and I was really like contractions on top of each other at this stage. And I remember my mum walked in and I just looked up at her and tears just started coming down my face. It's just such a crazy thing to see your mother when you're in labor, because you knew that she went through that. She's been through this when she gave birth to you, and now she's like seeing you give birth, her baby give birth. I don't know, it's crazy. So my mum and the midwife arrived, and it was just a really intense time of my labor. And the midwife was basically like, whoa, we need to leave now if you're going to make it to the birthing center. At this stage, I was like, I will go there naked. Like, I don't want clothes on me. I was in a really, turns out I was actually transitioning to like the 3rd stage of labor, or the 2nd stage, I can't remember. The stage where you need to push. I was in that transition stage. So I got up out of bed, and I think someone put undies on me and like a shawl or something, and we got downstairs, and I remember being like, my contractions were just like on top of each other at this stage. And then I just had this thought, like, with this labor, I just want mango. And I was like, Mom, get me the mango. So she had to go back upstairs and grab some mangoes, and we got into the car, and it was a 20-minute ride to the birthing center. That was the hardest part of my whole labor. I have no words for what that experience was like, but my mum and Chris were just in the car with me and incredible support, and we got through it. And just breathing. And we got to the birthing center, and I remember basically just getting into that room, and straight away I just had this urge to push, and I was like, oh, I think I need to do a poop. And I made Chris come into the bathroom with me. At this stage, he has not like been half a meter away from me this whole time. Like, my world would have crumbled without him, but he was just like the most incredible support, and it was just like the two of us, it felt like, and we were there just, yeah, it was amazing. And so it turns out I didn't need to do a poop, I just needed to push my baby out. The birthing pool was just filling with water. The midwives were there. I had 2 midwives there, and they were filling it up, and I was just like, I need to get in that water. So I hopped into the pool whilst it was still filling up and just started pushing every time I needed to push. And this got way easier for me at this stage. Like, the hard part was, I felt like I'd passed, and I was excited because I was like, the end is in sight, I'm going to meet my baby soon. And yeah, it was really intense pressure pushing, but it was like, I knew she was on her way. And I would push, and then between the urge to push, I was like quite okay. Chris and I would have a chat. He was sitting in front of me in the pool, and I was like over the side of the pool, and he was just there, and we would just talk, and we were quiet. And I remember the midwives were on the other side of the room just giving us space. My mum was also there, and they were just like doing their own thing or whatever. And so each time I needed to push, I was just like bearing down, and I was excited. Obviously it was like, I was exhausted as well. By this stage, sorry, I was like very aware of where my baby was in my tummy. I was like closing my eyes and just visualizing her there, like prepared to come out in like the perfect birthing position. I knew exactly where she was in my tummy. And so with a contraction, I felt her head, and I said to Chris, I'm like, babe, can you see hair? Like, can you see her? And the midwives, I just distinctly remember them laughing and being like, oh honey, you're gonna have to do a hell of a lot more to get her out. And I was like, what? Like, what? I honestly thought I was just about to give birth to her, and we laughed. And I was just like, oh my god, like, if that was in her head, like, what the hell was that? But I remember being like, oh right, like I thought it was like about to happen. Anyway, the next push, I pushed her head out and they were just like, whoa, and the midwives ran over and Chris jumped into the pool. And then it was not the next contraction, the contraction after that I birthed her, and she came out like Superman. She came out with her arm up and Chris just caught her, and she looked up at Chris, awake and blinking under the water, and Chris brought her up out of the water and just put her onto my chest. And I remember her just blinking, like looking around, so curious at the world. And it was a very like gentle birthing experience, and it was still sort of like makes me want to cry thinking about it. Like, she was just on my chest, and yeah, it's such a powerful moment, and it makes everything worth it. Like, your whole labor is just this crazy, incredible experience to get to this moment where you meet your child for the first time. And I just remember looking at Chris and we were both just crying, and we were just so, yeah, I don't even have words for what that feeling is. Yeah, we got out of the pool and we just kept her on our chest. We were just naked and just laying there with her in just complete awe. And it took me like 45 minutes or to an hour to birth the placenta, and then we left the birthing center a few hours after that and we went home. We just wanted to be at home with her. We did want a home birth, like I said, so we just went home as soon as we could and just settled in and began our lives at home with her. So Ayana was born at 7:08 a.m. on the 22nd of January. Our little Aquarius baby. She weighed exactly 3 kilograms. That is my birthing story. We talk about it still, like it's been 15 months since she was born, and Chris and I still talk about it and think about it. And honestly, it was the greatest, most powerful experience of our entire life. We absolutely love labor, everything about labor. The only thing I'll do differently is next time I'll give birth at home. I'll definitely have a home birth. Yeah, I just wanted to share my story because birthing is just an amazing experience, and women are designed to give birth. And this is the most natural thing that we can possibly do. And yeah, it is crazy and intense, but it's also like so powerful and amazing. So if you are pregnant right now, just know that you've got this and your body is designed to give birth. And yeah, I hope that this video helped, and I really recommend just hearing positive birthing stories and just shutting everything else out. Like, don't listen to those horror stories because it just doesn't help with anything. Yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful, and if you like this style of video where I sit down and share a story or whatever, then give it a thumbs up so that I know and I can make more videos like this, because we often do like vlog style videos, and I really like doing both. So let me know what you guys think, and if you have any questions about my birth or anything like that, or if you want more details or anything, just let me know. Yeah, I love everything to do with birth and labor and pregnancy, and I think it's the most special time. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this birthing story, and yeah, comment below with any questions or anything. Thanks so much for watching, guys.